to start. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. Today will be our final Saturday afternoon master class of the school year. Next week we do have a recital hour, and in a few weeks on a Thursday afternoon we do have a violin master class that will happen. It's sort of outside of our normal normal operating range, but today will be our final master class. I'm happy that we are joined today by the members of the Puget Sound Piano Trio. They are here in our region, all the way from the West Coast, doing a, I think you said 10 events, right, this week? 10 events? So a very active tour of the East Coast, and we're so happy that they're able to join us today. This was helped to us by our friend Bonnie Sorlian, who has also helped a number of members of our program in the past, so we're really happy that we can make this happen. The performers today will be one particular entity, and that will be our piano trio. I forgot, what did you guys call yourselves? Temple 567 Trio, an original name. I didn't name them, but anyway, Temple 567 Trio, and they, among some of our other members of the program, are traveling to the Fischoff Competition, and they're representing Temple Music Prep there. So we are looking for them to really hone their performing skills. They'll be playing the Beethoven. You're doing Beethoven first? Okay. They're doing the Beethoven Ghost Trio first movement and the Shostakovich second piano trio, the fourth movement. So the performers are Daniel Chi, violin, Aaron Liu, cello, and Emily Wu, piano. And they are coached by our own Charles Parker Jr., Chuck Parker, and we'll let them take it away, and we'll put them to work, and we'll hear from the trio in just a few minutes.
have them play all the way through their program, or should we work one piece at a time?
Why don't we work one piece at a time?
Okay.
I think that was their intent.
Okay,
Awesome.
great.
We'll just do half,
Yeah, half.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. So shall we start?
Yeah. Shall I?
Go.
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Well, first of all, tremendous playing. This is fantastic. It's really fantastic. So much energy and individual accomplishment and group unity. It's really wonderful to witness. So congratulations on all of that. But we know you have your competition coming, so we have to scratch at details, yeah, and try to raise it every level that we can. So the thing that I wanted to focus on most of all in responding to, other than to say fantastic, amazing music making, is to say that the things that you could improve in the coming weeks as you approach your competition are not unknown or revolutionary. It's playing together, and it's having so much depth of craft at playing together that you refine that into something that really sparkles. So I wanted to help you find a couple of places where it's not as together as the rest of it. And there's, unsurprisingly, I don't think it's mistakes. It's themes. There are themes. There are things that are consistently not together. And I think if you become aware of them and work at them, they'll improve within days. So the number one place where you're not together is when you have the double dotted rhythms. When you have like da, da-dee, da, da-dee, da. Those moments are very frequently not quite together. And I think it's a matter of first becoming aware of it, and second, figuring out how in the strings you're going to unify what you're doing with your bows so that you catch those notes together. And then, of course, integrating with piano as well. Could we take a minute and look at one of those spots? So maybe measure 51? Or we could start earlier than that. So start 43. So it's already better just by paying attention to it, just by naming it and saying, we're going to work on this and make it better. I want to encourage you to think, all of you to think, that the 16th note is not just as short a note as I can play, but that it has a very specific length, a very specific rhythmic meaning. Right now, sometimes they are of different lengths, and some of you are playing them very tight and compressed, and some of you are playing a little bit more metrically square. Now, it's okay if it's slightly over dotted and has a little bit of snap to it. It's also okay if it's really, really true, but it's not okay if you have different opinions about that. Could we try it once, same passage, where it's exactly a 16th? So if you just sort of think for a moment of what that's going to sound like, you've got this running flow of the scales and eighth does da 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 da. Right? Try to make it exactly a 16th one time and see if that comes together. Same spot? So it's a lot closer to being unified. Now, do you want to overdot those? Do you want to make it a little bit tighter and snappier? Have you talked about that? Do you want to try it once where it's just a little bit more dangerous, a little bit closer to the beat, but try to do it the same and imitate one another?
Can I say one quick thing too?
Yeah.
Just technically, I'm seeing the two string players, sometimes you have different approaches from above the string or versus on the string for that 16th. So just, I would maybe encourage to unify that, and maybe for ensemble purposes, start on the string.
Yeah.
Make sure they start from the string so you can both catch them a little bit more clearly. And can you remind me of your names one more time? You're
Daniel, Aaron,
Emily, Daniel, Aaron, Emily. Okay, yeah. And Daniel, I think just generally, I think you could be a little bit more articulate in your sound, and that might help unify the ensemble. Sometimes I lose you. I mean, I'm the violinist, so I always am listening closely for the violin, but I sometimes lose you a little bit in the mix, and so perhaps starting from the string and just being really clear with those 16ths will help give you a little more articulation. So sorry to interrupt.
That's
I was
okay.
there.
No, let's give it one more try, trying to make it those rhythms just a little bit more over-dotted and slightly closer to what you were playing before, but in a unified way. And then I wanted to ask if Ronaldo has any piano advice for that rhythm. But first, let's try it once and see what happens. Good. So I think that already just playing it a few times, being aware of the issue and asking yourselves some important questions about what your intentions are, and what are the mechanisms by which you're going to achieve those intentions, it already gets better. And I want to hear what Ronaldo has to say about this type of articulation on the keyboard.
In fact, I don't have that much to say about the articulation per se. I think as long as you're thinking about da, da, da. So if you think about the downbeat at your destination, if you're concerned too much about the short note, that's gonna
It gets clunky.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's more about think where you're going. Da 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 da. But I think the one thing that sticks out to me the most in this passage is not necessarily related to the rhythm. It's more related to the balance and overall articulation, meaning how legato your passage is going through this. So, Emily, I'd like to ask you to just look at the score. So, like the first 3 pages of the piece. So how many times do you see a slur? Not a single one on the second page. Very few on the first page. And then you are in bar 51. That is very, very deliberately slurred, right? So I think Beethoven has a point here. And I think your articulation needs to be a little bit more legato than what you did, so we can contrast more with what came before and what comes after. So that's one thing. Another thing is the fact that your material is actually secondary, because the rhythm is the one that I need to hear the most. So you see those tiny, tiny little like hairpins here and there? There's crescendo and diminuendo, all within the same dynamics. So I don't think you should make a huge deal out of it, because otherwise I'm not going to hear the strings as clearly as I would like. Okay? So try, can you just play yourself from 51, like really making as legato, just piano, sorry guys. So I can hear as legato as you can do it, and without too much of a swell. Okay? Yes. Okay, good. Much better. Now, another question. Range-wise, where are the strings fitting? Range in dynamics, yes, but range in pitch, like tessitura wise. So like the registers. So like the strings are around middle C area, correct? So what you're playing on the piano part has to provide enough support for what the strings are doing. So which one of your hands is creating more conflict with what the strings is doing? The right hand, right? So I would suggest that the left hand have a little bit more of a supporting role, while the right hand is secondary to what the strings are doing. So can we do everybody that? So, and of course, the first time this whole passage happens is the other way around. The piano has the dotted rhythms, and the strings have the slurs. So that needs to be a little bit more carefully heard in the piano part, okay? But it's also not only they need to hear you, you also have to play a little bit more. It's not like the strings always have the main materials, and you always have an accompanying role. You keep switching, and you have to keep your antennas up for whenever that switch is happening. You know, I used to have a wonderful teacher back when I was studying at the Peabody Institute, and she used to tell me that German music is about two things: listening and projecting. So it's really about, okay, when am I supposed to listen and when I'm supposed to project? So like you have to make that switch within your group dynamic. So like you have the two right there. So we have the same phrase being expressed in two different ways. Can we hear that? From 43. Okay, but then, are you doing enough? Yeah, so I think you can give a little more. It says piano. What is the dynamic at the end of the page? Pianissimo. You have a few ways to go, right? So I'd like my string friends to jump in if they feel like there's anything I'd like to.
I think that the piano could be more from everybody.
Yes.
The strings as well. It becomes almost immaterial if you play too softly. Piano in this context, on this page of score, which has pianissimo and pianissimo, piano is a healthy, real sound, just a gentle one.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought that dynamically, I thought that was better. I liked that kind of slightly warmer sound that you got that time, and I think for the strings, something to think about, or perhaps you've already decided with the scalar passage. Are you is the plan to have any vibrato, a little vibrato? What's non-vibrato? What's your plan between the two of you? I can tell you what I see. I see a little bit of vibrato from Daniel, right? And then I see non-vibrato, and I'm wondering if you want to create a slightly warmer sound, you might want to match just a little. I wouldn't be vibrating every single note here, but just maybe a little bit, or think about how you're unifying the use of vibrato in the string sound, because that will help create a different color. And then I'm still going to be super picky, Daniel. There are some of those 16ths that I miss. I just can't hear from you still, and I'm going to be really specific. In one of them is in measure 60, the pickup to measure 61, the B. I think it's because you're dropping down dynamically. There's a piano, a subito piano, and it's crescendoing. I don't hear that pickup from violin. I do hear your C sharp in the next bar, the 16th pickup. So that's coming out a little bit better. So, but just be careful because I lose some of. I don't always hear your notes, and I think with a little bit more clarity, it'll be just a little easier to play together. Okay. So do you want to add anything, or have them play again?
Maybe just while we think about dynamics, looking at measure 59 at 61, I think that the strings could be much more unified in how you release the sound away from the impact of forte. You're doing quite different things. So just hear each other there and unify what happens at the end of that note of forte. And how sudden, how extreme is the piano at 60? You know, is it something that's, or is it a natural release from forte? And what you do, making that identical from the two strings and making it somehow respond to the natural shape of the left hand piano note that has its own natural decay, I think is important.
Can we try this passage one more time? And obviously all these ideas are all applicable in other places as well. I mean, it's just about really like the finest touches on what already is a really fantastic performance for you all. You're playing so well. So can we try 43? And I just want the strings just to pay attention to what your left hands are doing, and then hear and decide what you like. So decide if you like it. You could do it non-vib, or you could do it with a little bit of vibrato. Both actually are viable options. And then we'll keep going and make sure that those 16ths speak, okay? But pay attention to what comes before the 16th, because that helps that articulation on the 16th, okay? I gave you 3 things to think about. Good. All right. So you were thinking about a lot of stuff, and I could hear that. I could hear you making some decisions, some ideas. Some of the 16th spoke really well. Some of them are still not together, but I think it's because now you're hearing what each other is doing, which is fantastic. And then let's do it one other time. And strings, can you play soft with no vibrato at the beginning of that section? See if you like that better. Good. What did you think between the two? Vibrato, no vibrato, poco? What's your sense of the sound?
I think additional vibrato is necessary. I feel like if there's no vibrato, it's a little too noty.
Yeah.
And with the piano, it already has skills afterwards. So I feel like having vibrato kind of like mitigates that
It warms up the sound a little bit. Yeah, I like it. And I also this last time the last time when you got to the 16ths with the dotted notes, I thought that this time was great. Your sound was much more unified in the strings, and actually your left hands were nice and active there too. There was a nice sense. So even though we were talking about vibrato on the scales, you unified your vibrato on the double dotted quarter 16ths better this last time. So I think that's stuff that I consider those ideas going forward. How are we on time?
We probably only have a couple more minutes for this piece. So are there any? I have one thing that I have to say before we.
Yes, I do too.
Yeah. You go ahead.
Yeah. We won't have time to do this here, but I think it's going to be crucial for you guys to practice in between now and your competition. The development section to be super, super tight. You have to practice left hand with cello, right hand with violin, and then put it all together. Because that really takes so much to really match rhythm and balance and articulation as well. Because a lot of the times sometimes you're going to be doing in unison, sometimes you're going to be separated by a third, sometimes you're going to be separated by a sixth. Who is on top? Sometimes the cello is on top. Sometimes your left hand is on top. Violin, sometimes right hand is on top. Violin is a lower voice. So all of those, they need to be carefully understood. And the hierarchy of the voices need to be well established. Okay? That's one thing. Another thing in general is be more specific with your dynamics. Beethoven is super, super specific. And a lot of the times, crescendos are happening too soon. Fortes are not contrasting enough to pianos that came before. And difference between forte and fortissimo. Sometimes they all sound a little bit to the same. All of this, I mean, I'm just making a laundry list here, but it doesn't mean that you guys are not playing great. I think you're already doing a tremendous job. But if you really want to do that kind of extra, next level competition performance, you really have to pay careful attention to those things. Okay? There are many, many more things that I would like to say, but I think for time's sake, I think Alistair just one.
So where I started was just saying, in your remaining time that you have to work on this, just dig at these details of ensemble playing, really, really playing together, and find those places where there are problems to be solved, and just solve them as directly and as quickly as possible. And two more places to look at that I think completes for me the list of any patterns of issues. If you do the three things on my list, I think you're getting 90% of all of the ensemble issues. The first one being those double dotted rhythms. The second one being the figure that is sort of the signature of this piece, the da ba da da di di da. And again, it's a question of how much or how little you compress the little notes, or how square they are. And just having one little segment of rehearsal where you do it completely straight and you try it a little bit compressed and see how you want to feel that, and then give that signature its meaning in your group. I think that's probably something that after 10 minutes of rehearsal you've made a meaningful contribution to the piece, because you do it over and over and over again. And then the last one on my list of three is measure 27, when the strings are trading back and forth the eighth notes. And in the piano part, you've got all 16th notes. I don't think that those eighth notes can be overly inflected in a way where the groups kind of swing forward. It has to have a rhythmic fullness to every eighth note. Da 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 dee da dum, da 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 dee da dum. And when you were playing, it was a little bit kind of like ya da da dee da dum, swinging forward a little bit and creating a little bit of instability. And so I think that there are some places that need to be really, really, even within legato, even within lyricism, need to have this rhythmic structure and integrity, and that's one place that the strings could be a little bit more full on every eighth note, and that'll keep it really, really bonded to the piano 16th notes. So that's what I would say is just like focus on ensemble and make playing together your highest goal, and that's going to guide so much of your work. And it's really spectacular. But I think we should move to Shostakovich.
Yeah, let's hear some Shostakovich. I say some things? I'm sorry.
Okay,
If you
Go ahead.
go ahead, go ahead.
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I just think that, I mean, bravo to all three of you. I'm sure Maria's going to give you specific string feedback. I just must say a couple things about the piano part, without which I'm afraid some things are really going to be missing, like really, really severely. So, like, one thing for sure, you need to use the pedal all the time, except when it's staccato. When it's really like a clearly dry sound, no pedal. But every time they're giving their heart and soul to every single pitch they're playing, dum 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 dum, and you're playing the main melody, and you're just dum dum bum bum bum. That's not gonna cut it. Okay? You really need to project more, and that's not just playing louder. Use the resonance of the instrument to your favor, so you can actually match the level of energy that they're providing, you know? So, and really, like, there's so many examples where even some basic, like, open octave sometimes, like the theme, but like there are many other places that you're simply not using the pedal. And that is just a whole few layers of sound and color that are just subtracting from your playing. And that's not what you want. You know, like, you really want to explore much more than that. And I think in general, and I know this is hard, but like, I think you really need to match their energy level overall. And it feels like there is a gap going on. And I think part of it is maybe you're just trying to do like a very safe and deliver as accurate a performance as you want, as you can. And I applaud you for that. It's important to be accurate. However, if you're playing safe, you're not putting yourself in a stage of vulnerability. And this piece is all about vulnerability. You have to be exposed. You have to give so much. You have to really leave it all out there. This piece, by the end of this movement, you have to be exhausted. You cannot, have oh yeah, I just played the Shostakovich trio. No, it's like, oh God, this was draining, and it has to be. It's all about, like, and I'm not saying for you, oh my God, play loud as hell. No, it's not that. It's about knowing how much you can give and when that happens. For example, the big climax, like the triple forte thing. Is that, I don't even have the score, but is that reversal 79? If I remember correctly? It's the triple forte. No, it's there. It's just like, didn't get it. But like, anyway, it's I just, there's like perhaps 2 or 3 notches that you could still give. And you could help with the pedal, So, I mean, I wish you could have more time to really dig into the details, but like, and we can talk afterwards if you'd like. But like, I truly urge you to consider expanding as much as you can your range, okay? Because the strings are really like going at it in a way that is really like so obvious and so. And I'm not saying you're not committed. You're absolutely committed, but it's just it's not coming across, But I'm gonna stop here because I'm sure my friends have some more things to say.
Well, I think you all, again, I think it's fantastic work, and we've played this piece a lot, so I know all of the pitfalls. I know where it's really, really hard to count and come in, and how what all the difficulties are of the piece. I do agree with Ronaldo about like just general like projection of energy and dynamics. I just want everything you're doing to be like so much more exaggerated, even from all of you. I know you're focused on piano, but I think the strings you can do much more. And I just from a technical standpoint, again, I think you have this opportunity we can pick on our own. So like anytime, like I want you to do way more bow, like all the time, like so places where you know, there's sometimes a tendency to kind of stop here. I want to like see you like going all the way to the tip, and you know, I'm thinking of where's that place where you studied? Oh, these guys right here that all the way. You know, like you're not using all of your bow, and I think you can get just way more sound, and it also will look like more energy going out to the audience. So I was watching him more, probably the same for cello, but I do think.
Yes.
So can you guys just try? Can you try that specific place? You know, I'm talking about 240, and we could do. Let's have the piano play, and maybe we can do 2 bars before that too, so we can get a little bit of the quadruple stop stuff. This bar, what is that? 238.
And Maria, if I can just interject,
Yeah.
just to tie it back about the expenditure of energy. When you reach this spot of the piece, you're going to be tired. But this is a moment where you have to summon the meaning of this music and desperately continue, go farther. It's desperation. Let's hear that.
You know, I feel like when I have to say, when I get to this place, like I literally inside want to scream, because I feel like all of the repression and all of this stuff that's going on in the storyline of the piece, and then later on when we put the mutes on and we're playing our hearts out with the mutes, it's like your whole voice, all you want to do is just emote and be expressive, and somebody's saying, no, put that mute on, you can't speak your true voice, and all of that is inside. So sometimes I'm like ready to cry when I play this, you know, that kind of emotion. But this place for me, wow, like it is just heart-wrenchingly like wailing. So let's do it. Let's do the right there, like, you know, 2 bars of that, and then lots of both, folks. Try not to hit your violins and scratch your instruments, but you can, that can be prepared if that happens. We can go back further. Maybe we should go back further. Like, where's a good spot? How about
230.
Yeah, I was gonna say 230 is awesome. Let's do 230.
That's the energy.
Well, that is amazing, and that's the energy you have to put out. And that was like, yeah, and break all those hairs. Again, audience love that kind of stuff, right? Alistair broke his string last night in our concert, by the way. It was like a really, everybody.
Bizarre.
So,
But yeah, it
no, but,
happens.
and then that was so much more exciting. Do you think you have even more sounds? I don't think they're going to cover them. And anyway, there's like a whole visual element to what they're doing.
Yeah.
When that I just don't here. I don't think you have to worry about that.
Yeah.
So,
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
You know, this is the absolute cathartic moment of the entire piece. If you were one day to play the entire piece, this is it. You die for it. Like, it's like the most, like, it's a moment, like, it has to be registered. Like, the audience is like at the edge of their seats, you know? And that all starts in 201, correct? So you have this cry from the cello, and what does the piano do? It's this ostinato that keeps returning, right? So
Yeah.
How do you create that kind of horror? Because this is horrific. Okay? So excuse me for a second. So you have to like really like you're really start using a little more pedal as you go. You're creating this cloud of uncertainty. And as it goes crescendo, you start detaching a little more. So you start super legato into the keys. And you start using more your arms, and as you guys hear, and then you really go full power. The bigger, the bigger motion. Okay.
I was just going to say to that spot that when that sequence starts, when we have yada da 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 in that it happens a bunch of times. Oftentimes when we play it, we do drop like slightly there so we can crescendo even more. And I noticed you all did it like once that way as a group, but there are a lot of times where that figure happens, and it's hard to pace that crescendo and just get louder. So sometimes when it starts to repeat, that's a place to drop a little bit and then crescendo even more. So you might consider that as a element to kind of help your proportions with it. Do you guys want to start there? That triple forte for cello, it's
201.
201. Yeah, no, that was great.
Yes.
Do you see what I mean? Like, that helps because there's only so much. We top out energy-wise, and we have to kind of refuel and then go. So, and that happens collectively. Violin has it, piano, sometimes you have it as a group. I might suggest that as an element. I think it's not specifically written in the music, but it makes sense. So you are going to have to get a repair after this, huh?
Emily, I think you can start even less and grow. I think, here's a passage where balance is an afterthought, because what you're going for.
We do want to hear what the
No. I understand that. But like at the same time, the piano part is so oppressive by nature that it makes no sense for you to play da 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 da. So you have to be very focused with your crescendo. And it's just a matter of understanding what the role of the part is. And I think in this particular passage, the piano has an oppressive role. And you're oppressing the voices of the strings. And they're crying their hearts out. And we want to hear that. But it's not like you're necessarily underneath, you're competing. And this is arguable, but like I do believe in this particular piece, in this particular passage, that's the role of the piano part. But anyway,
do you want to try this? We'll
Alistair
play
to talk
through
a
a little bit. I just want to give you a chance to try some
We
of
have
this.
only a couple more
Yeah.
minutes, so maybe we should say our last words and let them play and shake
Yes.
aside these things. Ronaldo, would you agree that 2:30, the piano part should be titanic? It should be.
Oh, absolutely.
It should be enormous.
And it's a dance.
Yeah.
So on top of all of that, this entire movement is a dance. It's a death dance.
I would.
So there is this very, very sadistic element to this whole thing. And you really have to really almost enjoy the misery of it.
And that intensity is very difficult for the audience to experience. It's very difficult to create. I think what Maria said is really important. That it's like we each take our turn going to the physical limits, So the strings are going to exhaust themselves by 220. And at that moment, the piano has arisen and kind of takes over the role of absolute fierce intensity. Now, we're hacking away with our bows, but secretly, you've backed off in energy because you're no longer having to sustain.
Exactly.
So secretly, you're conserving energy so that at 230, you go up in energy in the string, and so that at 240, you go up in energy again in the strings. And by that point, the pianist is probably exhausted from 230, 235 area.
Absolutely.
Right? And so having the strings create this desperation, it's like it keeps laddering up the energy. And I think being strategic in how you use your body is important, because otherwise you will get very tired in these pieces. I wanted to say to you, when you want to play louder, don't put your head down. Keep your head up, drop your shoulders, and that's where you're going to find your power. The last thing I want to say is an element of this piece we haven't talked about specifically, but it's everywhere, are these surging crescendos, right? That it's one of the hallmarks of this piece. And I think not only should you make them more severe and dangerous and violent, but also you should make sure you do them the same way. So on the tum-ti-ram, make sure that you're actually ending those notes together. You have to be physically committed, but you also have to have an eye for each other. And that idea of these short crescendos that keep stabbing out and reaching out towards kind of nothing, it happens again and again and again and again and again in the score. So make sure you do that.
I just want to explain one thing. I think Alistair said is so important, because you will like physically exhaust yourselves to the point where you can't play if you just keep giving. So when we get to like, it's actually fairly easy to get a lot of sound if you're economical with your bow and you relax your body. So that is honestly a place where I get to and I'm like,
Rest.
okay, but it doesn't mean I'm like playing piano. It's not like that I'm relaxing like the musical intensity. I'm relaxing my technique so that I can get further, right? So whatever it is, like you can get a lot of, but I don't have to like work really hard at it. So that's what I would encourage my string players to do. Pianists, of course, but you got to find places where you can rest, refuel physically.
Yeah. And that allows you to go up
Yeah,
at the next
yeah.
transition instead of being like starting to sag. If this music sags, it loses its power.
I just don't want you to walk away from this coaching thinking like, oh, I have to exert every physical ounce, because you really will tie
Yeah.
yourself in knots.
Lift in the right places.
So in the right places.
Should
you
we
want to
let them
play? Let's
and try to
play.
incorporate some of this
Yeah.
back to that same spot,
Yeah.
and we'll go through.
thank you to Maria, Alistair, and Ronaldo, the Puget Sound Piano Trio, for coming in and giving these guys a good workout. And for all these guys for giving us.
Yeah, bro.
We have to flip the room real quickly for an orchestra rehearsal. I thank you so much again for being with us. And next week we will have a recital hour. So everybody have a good rest of your afternoon.